Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Vento Aureo, Episode 3. So yeah, we have another episode. Last we left off, Giorno and Bruno finished up their battle, and Giorno is kind of joining Bruno, but as he put it, Bruno was going to join forces with him. And I kind of like that. I like thinking back on it now that I've seen it again. I like the way that was worded, because Giorno has this confidence about him. Not only to accomplish his goal of becoming a gang star and helping keep drugs away from kids and stuff, but he has this confidence about, like, who he is. And I wouldn't say he has a huge ego. I would not say that at all. I'd say it's more along the lines of he believes in himself enough to where if he says he's going to do something, if he knows he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And he sees others as a way to help him accomplish that goal. And Bruno specifically, when he found out that Bruno does have this caring side to him, that Bruno isn't just this bad guy, he's like, this guy could be helpful. That's kind of what I feel like his thought process is. That I can respect him, and that I want him on my side. Not that I want to be on his side, I want him on my side. Which is why he said to Bruno, I want you to join me. Even though technically, from what we gathered, Giorno would actually be joining him in the gang that Bruno's already a part of. So when Giorno said that, it wasn't like saying, like, oh, you're going to join me in a gang or anything, or you're going to join my side, or leave your side and join mine. No, it's more like he was saying, like, I want you on my side. I want you to join my goal. I want you to help me with my plans for this city. It was more of a... It wasn't as much of a demand as he made it sound. Let's put it that way. He made it kind of sound like it was this big demand, or like this big, like, thing that, like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. No, I felt it was like more of just his way of expressing a desire and a request. At least that's how I viewed it. But yeah, so last episode, that was pretty much the gist of it. It was Bruno versus Giorno, and ending with that that bit of information. Plus, we did get to find out about Giorno's past a lot more, and how Dio even sired him in the first place. And I am still glad that even the show acknowledges it makes no sense that Dio let Giorno's mother live. Like, I like that even everyone else, even the show, admits that there's something weird about that. And it's not clear why he would have done that. So yeah, that's a nice touch. So presumably in this episode, Giorno's going to start making his move on to getting to join this gang. I think Bruno's going to be on his side by now, but I think it's also going to be more along the lines of a reluctant partnership. I don't think Bruno's going to be like buddy-buddy with him or anything. And speaking of buddy-buddy thing, I did bring up last time how each part of JoJo kind of has that antagonist who ends up joining forces with the hero. And, like, you know, how everyone has that, like, with Speedwagon joining Jonathan, or Kakyoin joining Jotaro, Okuyasu joining Josuke. But one that was brought up to me was the Part 2 one I mentioned. Because in Part 2, I mentioned how Caesar is sort of antagonistic towards Joseph, and he ends up joining him. And there was someone, I don't remember who, you know who you are, Someone mentioned in the comments to me, like, that it would make more sense to point out Stroheim, Rudolf von Stroheim, the Nazi who ends up becoming a cyborg Nazi in part 2, who starts off as an antagonist, and even, honestly, kind of a straight-up villain, but ends up joining Joseph and Team JoJo because of the Pillar Men being a bigger threat and kind of, the common enemy thing. The enemy of my enemy, or... So, you know what I mean. I was going to say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Something like that. I'm not good with that kind of, again, stuff, but you get what I mean. And I see that point. I see how Stroheim would be a little more fitting of that, because he was definitely more of a villainous, antagonistic role towards Joseph than Caesar. But I still stand by the idea that Caesar was antagonistic when they first met. They definitely did not like each other at first. And they were definitely at each other's throats at the beginning. They only kind of became friends and stuff out of necessity. And they were supposed to kind of come together in the first place. I think Caesar was there specifically to meet with Joseph, if I remember right. But either way, it's just like, still, he kind of acted like an ass, and so did Joseph. Both of them kind of did, towards each other at first. But yeah, I can see how Stroheim would definitely be considered a much more comparative example with the rest of those I've mentioned. Now, one thing that I always want to see in these new JoJo parts at this point is the new stands. Because now the stands have become just part of JoJo. Like, stands are just a thing now. Basically replacing Haman and all of that. Now the stands are the big thing. I of course want to see them. I want to see more of them, and I want to see how creative they get. I believe it was you guys in the comments on the first episode who said that part 5 is where they really get creative with a lot of the stands, and I'm really hoping to see that. I want to see more. So far, like, outside of Koichi, who we already knew, we've only seen 2. And, I mean, granted, it's only been 2 episodes, but still. We've only seen Giorno's, and we've seen Bruno's. And they're good, and they're interesting. Like, the fact that Giorno can apparently bring life to the lifeless, and I guess, presumably, the opposite as well, turn living things into non-living things. And if something's already alive, he can imbue it with extra life, which can cause someone to have an out-of-body experience, which is fun. Basically, their senses go haywire. And then Bruno, of course, has his zipper powers, which are fun and creepy. Also, speaking of that, I was told in the comments that Bruno stands Zipper Man. That was a really weird censoring for the character, for the stand's actual name. The stand is apparently actually named after a Rolling Stones album. I can't think of the name right now. But the album has Sticky Fingers. That's it. The album is known for having a working zipper on the cover that I guess, like, has a purpose. I don't know. I don't know the full thing about the album, but I know it has a working zipper on it, which is where the zipper connection does come in. But apparently, like, the original name that Araki gave to the stand was Sticky Fingers, named after the album. And they, for some reason, changed it to Zipper Man with the localization. And they've changed names before. Like in part 4, in Diamond is Unbreakable, they changed Bad Company to Worst Company or something like that. Bad Company, of course, being named after a band and everything, and, you know. And Santana, one of the Pillar Men from part 2, his name was changed. I don't remember what it was in the localization, though. I could probably look that up too. It was something like that was it was close, but it also sounded kind of weird at the same time. Viento. That's it. Viento. Okay, it was Viento. One word in the localization, and in the actual English dub anime, it was just Viento. But yeah, originally it's Santana, named after, of course, the band Santana and the specific person, Carlos Santana. But yeah, even that one was close. And a lot of them have been close, but that's why a lot of people, I guess, have noted that Zipper Man is really far off from Sticky Fingers. They could have probably found something comparative to name him. Yeah, even I acknowledge that one's a really weird one. But either way, I am still enjoying it. I still like the character, whether you want to call him Sticky Fingers or Zipper Man. Well, the Stand. And I still like Bruno so far. I really want to see where this is going to go, though. Because this one, obviously, I mean, as we know, is being focused around gangs. I don't know how big of a role Koichi or Jotaro are going to have in it, though, because they've already appeared, but only in the first episode so far. They weren't in the second. So I don't know how big of a role they're going to have, especially with it focusing more around Giorno and his group. Well, the group he's joining. I don't even think Koichi and Jotaro were in the opening, were they? I don't know. We'll probably see again this time. Either way, I do thank you all so much for tuning in, and we're just going to get started because I don't know where this is going to go at all. But I'm excited to find out. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so that was interesting. I assume that was Pulpo's stand then? I would have to assume so. Okay, so Bruno agrees to join Giorno in his quest to take over the gang, which we now know is called Passion. So Bruno agrees to join him, but if Giorno lets his intentions known by the leader of Passion at any point, Bruno's basically said, I'm going to abandon you. You're on your own at that point, which I get. They're kind of building up this relationship to be not really a reluctant friendship, but more of a business kind of relationship. They're working together for a common goal, and that's pretty much it. They're not what I would call friends, at least not yet. We saw Koichi in this episode as well, by the way. I was wondering if we were going to see him again, although his role in here was quite minor. He was just trying to get his passport and all back. But the main thing here is that Bruno brings Giorno to a prison where one of the capos of Passion is being held. Pulpo, rather, is this giant guy who first appeared to be a bed, and then it looked like he could eat his own fingers, which was gross, by the way. And yet it's somehow they reformed. So I think his stand ability is has something to do with the manipulation of his body. But then again, how does that tie into this stand we saw at the end here? Is that really Pulpo's stand? What we saw in the stand here is that whatever the stand is, and don't tell me its name or anything about it yet, by the way. I do want to remain spoiler-free on that until we end up finding out, like, legitimately. What we can tell from Pulpo's, or from what I assume is Pulpo's stand, one, I love its design, but what we can tell about it is it seems to be, like, not actually sure of what's going on. Like, at first it seemed to think that old man had lit or had reignited the lighter, and it was attacking him, and it used the arrow. The arrow that first appeared in part 4, but as we found out in part 4, actually was part of part 3 as well. It's the arrow that created the stands that pretty much everybody seems to have these days. I wonder if maybe Giorno had even, I wonder if Giorno, if that's how he got his stand power, or if it was just because of the fact that he, what is Dio's son. I really have no clue. But it's interesting to think about. Was it just because Dio was his father and that kind of thing can be passed on? Or is it just, did he get it some other way? We really don't know so far. But Pulpo is, like, has the ability to let Giorno into the game, which is what Giorno wants to do to fulfill his goal. But in order to do so, Giorno has to keep the lighter lit for 24 hours, which is obviously harder than you would think. He was able to turn into a flower for a time, which apparently worked. Like, the flame was still going when he turned it back. Couldn't then he just keep it as a flower for 24 hours and the flame would be fine? I'm not sure. Either way, he's getting it to work. Everything's going against him, though, because that's how this always goes. Whenever someone's tasked with something like this, everything is working against them to make them fail it. And so everything's going wrong, and eventually it goes out. The lighter goes out. But the old man helps Giorno relight it. And that's when the stand comes in. And the stand, again, kills the old man, but uses the arrow. The stand seems to pull out the old man's soul, use the arrow on the soul, as if trying to give him a stand. And then it's like, it doesn't work. The old man dies. Obviously, his body's uninjured because it was directly to the soul and everything. But then he goes after Giorno, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like, did you reignite the lighter too? As in, the stand seemed to legitimately think, not, or just be completely unsure of what was going on. So my theory is that the stand is automated. It's kind of like this, like, almost like robotic sentry that Pulpo sends out to make sure that the lighter stays lit. Presumably, it didn't actually see the lighter go out or be relit, but it knows that it was relit. Which means that that's why it attacked the old man and everything, even though the old man was technically the one who reignited it, but it was Giorno's duty. But I don't think the stand knows that. Like I said, it seems like it's automated. Now, this is just a theory. This is based on what I'm seeing, but I can't think of any other way this would make sense. And at the end there, I mean, obviously, the stand is coming at Giorno, so how is he going to handle this? If the stand is Pulpo's, then I would assume that Pulpo can see and everything through it, right? But then if it's automated, maybe not. If Giorno attacks it with gold experience, then wouldn't Pulpo feel it at least? I really have no idea. The idea that the stand is automated puts all of this into question for me. And I don't even know if this is true. This is just my theory at the moment. But if that is true, then a lot of this is put into question. Because I don't think we've seen an automated stand before. At least, again, I don't think we have. I might be just forgetting about something, but this is interesting so far. So apparently, Pulpo has the ability to give people stands, and I guess that's part of how, I assume a lot of the members of Passion are going to have stands through the arrow that Pulpo has. I assume that's probably even how Bruno has his. How he has sticky fingers. That would be my guess, at least. I am excited to see where this goes, for sure. Because, one, again, as I said, I love this stance design. It's really cool. It kind of looks like this, it almost looks like a carnival mask, I'd say. Like Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you've ever seen the old Disney movie Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know that one, jester-looking guy who's like this gypsy performer? I cannot think of his name right now. But you know who I'm talking about. In Hunchback of Notre Dame, the gypsy performer guy who wears the mask and everything and has the big hat. The big, almost like, not quite egg-shaped, but you know what I'm talking about. That kind of looks like this guy. This stand kind of looks like he's wearing one of those hats, and it kind of looks like he has like a carnival mask on. Like, that's not just me, right? It just instantly reminded me of that guy from Hunchback of Notre Dame. That might just be me, though. That might just be a coincidence. But yeah, I want to know more about this stand. I really do. But unfortunately, we have to wait another week. I've said it before, I'm fine with cliffhangers and stuff. I'm actually completely good with waiting another week for an episode. But at the same time, I will acknowledge that sometimes it can be a little hard to do so. It can be a little annoying, of course. But I think it's all worth it in the end. Excuse me. But yeah, so far this is turning out pretty good. The art style is my only real complaint. Because again, the art style seems like it's a combination of parts 3 and 4. And it's really distracting. It's really distracting to me. Especially with Koichi. Because, again, I'm used to seeing Koichi as he was in part 4. And his expressions and everything just look so different here. And it's just so weird. I mean, even with parts 3 and 4 having a big different art style and Jotaro being in both, he still didn't look that different. Like, in comparison, I think the only big difference was the lines and everything were smoother and there wasn't as much heavy detail in the face and whatnot. You could kind of say he looked younger, but he still looked like the same guy and his expressions were still pretty much the same. But, like, Koichi just looks so freaking weird, just specifically in the face. And I'm noticing it even more because I am rewatching Diamond is Unbreakable with my father and brother as it airs on Toonami in the dub. So I am seeing it again. So I am seeing what Koichi looks like, and it's so weird. I'm sorry, it just really is. But yeah, overall this is fun, and I really can't wait to see where this goes. And how is Giorno going to pass the test now, especially if the stand knows that the lighter was reignited? I'm interested to see. So once again, no spoilers in the comments. Do not tell me anything about this stand, about Pulpo's abilities or whatnot. Don't tell me. I want to find that out for myself as we continue on with the series. But what you can tell me is your thoughts on this episode in the comments below, as long as it's spoiler-free. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.